If you just move the wall and we'll have a little chat before we go down, alright? Okay everyone, so this is Mahogany Drift Mine. This was a real working pit. It opened up in 1855 and it shut in 1958. This mine was open for over 100 years. Now it used to be connected to another pit called Beamish Second Pit. And the shaft for Beamish Second Pit was at the top of the hill where the roundabout is, just before you come to the car park. So both pits were connected to each other. And the actual winding gear that was used on top of the shaft at the hill is the winding gear you can now see down here. So it's been taken down from the top of the hill and it's been rebuilt down here. Well, at that time, 100 years ago, there was well over 300 coal mines in County Durham alone. There was about 160,000 miners living and working in the area, and there was about 22,000 pit ponies in the area as well. So at that time, the Durham coalfield was the second biggest coalfield in the country after the Welsh coalfield. So it was a huge industry at the time. Now, when they used to mine for coal in them days, the main method of extraction was called column and board. So as they worked their way through the coal seam, they only ever took away about 30% of the coal. Most of the coal was left down there in the form of columns like that. Now the reason they did that is those columns of coal is what keeps the mine held up. If you took all the coal out, the whole thing would just collapse. So they had to leave those columns standing. Now sometimes when that seam of coal had been finished being worked, they would sometimes collapse those columns as they came back out again. But they would only do that if there was no towns or villages above, because they wouldn't want to cause any subsidence. And more often than not, when they have open cast mines today, in the present day, which is the most common method of extraction now, that involves taking up all the ground from above and then digging it all out and then filling it back in again. What they're actually usually mining is the columns that have been left by miners 100 years ago. So they're usually not mining new seams, they're often mining seams that have already been mined before, but just that it was such a wasteful method back then that most of the coal was actually left down there. So these men here, they're called hewers. They're the best paid workers in the pit. It's their job to cut the coal and fill the tubs up. A good hewer could fill about 14 tubs of coal a day, and he'd be getting paid about 6 pence for every tub of coal he filled. And he'd be doing that 6 days a week. So in them days, that was actually quite a lot of money. So a miner was quite well paid at the time. So not only was a miner quite well paid, he also was given a free house provided for by the coal owner, and he was given a ton of free coal delivered to his doorstep every single month. So if you could just imagine being 20 years old, you've got a free house, free fuel to your doorstep, and you've got a good wage. So you can see why people wanted to become miners. It was a good job at the time. Only problem is, it's very, very dangerous. So if a miner gets injured in the ground or he hurts himself, the mine owner might only give him about 2 weeks' notice to recuperate, to get back down there. If he doesn't get back down working underground, after about 2 weeks the miner will probably evict him from his house. If he's killed underground, then quite often his family might be evicted as well. So quite often a miner's widow would try and remarry within about 2 weeks if her husband had been killed underground. It's the only way she could keep the house. The only other option she might have is if she had some sons working underground. Young boys, maybe about 13, 14 years old, they'd be doing a job called putting. So they'd be pushing tubs of coal from the face to the surface, empty them out, and then bring the empty tubs back to the face again where they can get refilled. So throughout the teenage years, they're building the strength up, getting stronger and stronger. So by the time they get to about 17, 18 years old, they'll be strong enough to become a hewer and work at the coal face. But if you go back before the year 1842, some of the youngest children working underground then were about 5 years old. Young boys and young girls as well. They'll be doing a job called trapping. So they'd be opening and shutting the trapdoors underground, and that's what controlled the ventilation and it controlled the airflow in the pit. So if those doors were open too long, the air could escape upwards and the miners could end up suffocating. So that's why, have you ever heard the saying, shut your trap? When people say shut your trap, that's where that saying comes from. Yeah, young boys and young girls working down there 6 days a week. So how old are you, mister? 6. So you'll be about a year into your working life by now. Yeah, you've been working for about a year by now. How old are you, mister? 12. So you're about 6 years into your working life by now. Yeah. So we're going to go underground now. It's going to get down to 4'6" of points. So you need to watch your heads. Keep your helmets on at all times. If you don't like it, you can always come back out the way you've come. You don't have to stay down there if you don't like it. But it is going to get down to 4'6", alright? Okay, so you need to watch your heads and keep your helmets on, okay? So just be careful. Here we go then. Watch your heads now. Very, very low. Stop there, you can stretch out and then we'll do a little chat here before we go further. Alright, you scooch up a little bit there, should be at the like yeah. Yeah, okay. Is that everybody?
We've lost one. We've lost one.
We lost one. Okay,
Yeah.
sorry. They've gone back. They've gone back out.
Yeah.
Ah, okay. No, so basically, you've only been walking for about a minute there, and I can imagine your back's already starting to hurt a bit. Now, basically, mine would have to walk at that height for about an hour before you can start to shift. So remember, this mine used to go down 1.5 miles, and that's not particularly a very big mine. So it was quite common for mines to walk at 4'6" for the full hour. Before they even start the shift, they'd be walking that on the way back as well. So say if you're doing 8-hour shifts at the coal face, you might still be doing over 10 hours in total. You don't get paid for the walk there or the walk back. You pay by piece rate, you pay by how much coal you actually put into your tubs. So what happens is when a miner gets to the coal face, he starts mining that coal with his pick and his shovel, starts shoving that coal into his tubs. Once that tub gets full and he can't put any more, he'll attach a token. He's got a set of tokens with his unique number on. That tub then goes to the top with the token tied on. The weighman then weighs that tub, and then whatever weight of coal is in that tub, that's how much that miner gets paid. Now stone weighs more than coal, so quite a lot of time miners used to put stones into the tub, try and get the weight up, try and get themselves a bit more money. If you put too much stone in, the weighman will realise you're trying to con the owners, and he'll disqualify the tub altogether. So the key was just to put a bit of stone in, not too much, just enough to get the weight up. And that was one way of cover the rest with coal, and that was one way of maximising weight. You just go to the back this so everyone get back. Get through. Thanks now. Okay, oh, there's dummy down there. Right, so yeah, in 1906 this machine here was invented. This is called the Syscall coal cutter. Runs on compressed air from the surface. This can cut 3 times more coal than the best miner can. Only problem with the machine is the drill there creates a lot more coal dust than what would usually be produced from a pick, and that wasn't good for the miner's lungs. So most miners 100 years ago would probably die in the mid to late 50s, usually of a condition called pneumocomiosis. They call it miner's lung, basically caused by a lifetime of breathing in coal dust that accumulates in the lungs over time. But suppose that machine there sped up the process by about 10 years. So miners were like dying about 10 years younger if they worked on that machine. So it's not a very nice machine to use whatsoever. It's also twice as loud as a modern day pneumatic road drill. So if you ever see those drills that Bill's using the road today, that's twice as loud as one of them. No protection for your ears in them days, so you probably go deaf after a while as well working on that. Now the roadways were supported by pine props like these. The reason they use pine trees is because pine trees grow straight naturally. They're a good natural support, and they also creak under pressure. So if there's going to be a collapse in the pits, these do give you one beforehand. Much later they start to replace these metal props, and although the metal props can hold a lot more weight than the wooden ones can, they don't creak. So when they came down, quite often miners didn't have any notice. So a lot of miners supposedly preferred wooden props because they actually did creak and give the men a bit of warning beforehand. Now you can see there's quite a lot of water in the mine. Although when you get to the Earth's crust, generally speaking, the more water there is. So some of the first ever steam engines invented in Britain by Thomas Newcomb were actually invented to pump water out of coal mines. That was the job. If those engines stopped working at any point, the mine could start filling with water very, very quickly. So yeah, flooding was quite common. The other problem you've got underground is methane gas. If methane gas comes into contact with a spark or a flame, it could cause a huge explosion which could rip through the pit and kill a lot of people. The worst disaster that ever happened in County Durham was at a place called Stanley, just up the road. The 1909 pit disaster there killed 165 people. So after that, the 1911 Coal Mines Act came in, and that meant all men had to carry a flame-safe lamp underground. That's the only light source you're allowed underground. And when we get down there, I'll show you the lamp. The other gas you've got to worry about is carbon monoxide. If carbon monoxide, if you breathe too much of that in, you can poison you and suffocate you. So in order to prevent that, mine used to take canaries underground. Because canaries' lungs are so small, if they fall off their perch in the cage, that's an early warning. Because they're yellow, you can see them very clearly in the dark, so that's why they use canaries. Let these out. And now. What's that? Still some more down there. So we're going to go down towards the coal face in just a second. When we do go to the coal face, it's going to go back down to that 4'6" again, and there's going to be a bit of water on the floor, so it's a bit uneven to walk on, and it is low as well. So keep your helmets on and watch where you're walking, okay? Keep your head right down.
Yeah, well, that and I'm a cleaner at Middleton, so it was interesting to say survey over there. Spent a few years there.
This is the next room, we're not going in again.
Oh, sorry.
Alright. The British way, you say your queue, you stand behind
Okay, right, so it's going to get down to 4'6" again, so watch your heads, okay? Keep your helmets on and just be careful, okay? Here we go then. Okay, keep going around. Okay, you can follow to your left as well, to show you more space for you as you go down that way. Oh, just watch your head, be careful. You keep coming forward, more people getting in, you pull forward. There's a seat there if anyone wants it. Just don't fall down if you sit on it. Right, okay. So this is the coal face, this is where mining worked to get the coal. So a mine had a pick like that, he'd have to buy that from the local co-op out of his own wages. He'd be hacking at the coal face with his pick, trying to break the coal as best he can. Once he gets about a metre in, he'll then get his props out, hammer them into place, because that's all he's got to keep the ground above him held up. Once he's done that, he can then get his shovel, start shoveling that broken coal into his tubs. Good miner can fill about 13, 14 them a day, so that's a lot of coal you shifted. Remember, you'd be piling that high on that tub, you know, it would be like overflowing. Now if you were lucky enough to work in a drift mine, which is quite close to the surface like this one, so you just drift into the coal face from a hillside, like this one. Usually that means the mine will probably be cool, it'll be free of gas. So basically you could probably get a hand drill, put a hole in there, and you could shot fire your core with explosives. Now in the deep pits, when you go down a shaft, more often than not those pits were anything from say 150 metres to maybe 400 metres, 500 metres deep. So down those pits it's going to be boiling hot down there. You're going to be working about 30, 40 degrees Celsius, boiling hot, and there's much more chance of there being gas down there, methane. So you wouldn't do any shot firing in those pits, you'd be doing most of your work by hand. And of course, because of the gas, that's why you've got your flame safe lamp. So inside there you've got a wire mesh gauze. If gas gets inside that gauze and comes into contact with the flame, no matter how big the flame gets, it won't pass through the gauze. And that's what stops the explosions from happening underground. But if you want to know how much light it gives you, so that's the sort of light a miner will be working in 100 years ago. Now your eyes will adjust over time, so you'll be able to see a bit better than we can, but it doesn't give you much, does it? Now, the roadways were kept at a minimal of 4'6". That was because of the ponies. You can't get the ponies in any lower than 4'6", so that's why you had to keep it a minimum of 4'6", right? But once it got to the coal face, a miner would usually work at whatever height the seam happened to be, at least for the first 10 metres in. So that's why, if you were working on a seam this high, you probably could see yourself very lucky indeed. Some miners could find themselves working 18-inch seams. That was the lowest in the Durham coalfield. It's about that high there. So you could be on your back, maybe in an inch of water, and that's the sort of height you'd be working in, cutting coal, that sort of height. So does anybody fancy a job? No? Are you sure? Come back. You can come back at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning if you want, and as long as you can fill 14 tons a day, we'll happily take you on. Alright? Okay, well that's the end of 2. Has anybody got any questions? No? No? Okay, that's alright. I'll pull these back out, okay?
Thank you.
Thanks, Dale.
What's up?
Careful as you go back out, watch your heads, okay? Keep your helmet on and watch your heads. Nice and slow, don't go too fast.